Crest won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files.
Welcome to the Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is another edition of
For the Stepdads. Yeah, this is our adult show. We get a little more personal.
Adult show.
Yeah.
It's more of it's nonsense about ourselves
Yeah.
pertaining to the nonsense that we talk about.
We get allowed one F word during this show, so use it wisely.
That word is fanatic.
Fire truck.
I'm going to go with fanatic.
All right, well, I'm going to crack open my Coors Banquet.
Ew. Nice. I'm going to sip a little 7 and 7.
Yeah.
That is awful.
That is 11 o'clock in the morning. Woo!
So, before we begin this grand episode, we need to make a couple of corrections
Yeah.
from past episodes. We make a ton of mistakes. Look, man, we're not historians.
No.
I can barely remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, which was nothing because I don't really eat breakfast. So I can't remember that. But I can't remember most things. So a lot of things glob together in your mind when you get to be
Yeah.
old jerks like us.
Especially stuff from like 40 years ago.
Yeah, give us a break.
We were babies back then. We were just kids.
Yes. But first, let's talk about our mispronunciation of a certain gentleman's name.
This is totally 100% on me.
Yes.
The
100% on you. I just want to shake my shame finger at you. I'm shaking it.
The one name I did not look up how to pronounce properly, and of course it came back and bit me in the butt. Casey Shimashko.
I recall.
Which is not
Didn't I ask you, like, am I saying it right? Am I
You
pronouncing
did,
this
and
right?
I said yes
And you did,
because
confidently.
I believed you.
I don't know. I think the way we said it sounds better.
It's either Siamashko or Shimashko. I think Shimashko is technically the Polish pronunciation.
Shimashko.
And I want to thank Sebastian
it.
Munoz for first turning me on to the fact that I said it wrong.
Yeah. Thanks
So
for
thanks.
being a busybody.
Thank you, our number one fan, Sebastian
Yes.
Munoz.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's going to have to fight it out with my sister for that declaration.
So that's on me. So what's on you, Jim?
Okay. I love cartoons, but a lot of the stuff that I talked about seemed to get mushed together in my brain and just formed into one thing. So,
Yeah, when you watch 40,000 cartoons before the age of 10, it happens.
yes. I said that H.R. Puffin stuff started with Jimmy falling into a big hat. Well,
Skin flute or whatever?
his magical talking
Sorry,
flute.
magical talking flute. Sorry.
Do not disparage Jimmy and the flute.
Sorry.
Jimmy.
Sorry.
So basically, I was wrong, is 100% wrong. Jimmy lived in that land and was tricked by Witchy Poo, played by the wonderful Billy Hayes,
Witchy Poo.
who just passed in April. Man, she was almost 100. She started working in 1934.
That's crazy.
She was
What a
all
career.
there. Yeah.
Holy moly.
I mean, she worked up until like 2016 doing voice work and stuff. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah,
Good for
she
her.
is amazing, and I think we should honor her with a show at some point. But
Okay.
she was in both of these shows that I got confused on. So she played Witchy Poo and H.R. Puff and stuff, and she conned Jimmy into getting into this really cool looking boat. It's like this really whimsical boat. And then he blah, 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 washes ashore. Boat crashes, beep, 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 trying to kill him and get the flute. Washes ashore. He's saved by H.R. Puff and stuff. Hi, Jimmy. I'm H.R. Puff and stuff. Welcome to the place. And then they fight Witchy Poo, of course. I thought he fell into a giant hat, which I loved. But I was confusing that with a show called Lidsville.
Yeah.
Now, Lidsville, oh, baby. Lidsville starts off with Butch Patrick.
Ooh.
You might remember from The Moonsters
Oh.
as
Oh, yeah.
as
The,
Billy Munster.
I don't remember his name. I don't want to get the correction wrong.
Yes.
So
Let's just say the Munster boy.
he was on the Munster. Yeah, he was on the Munster.
He played the Munster boy. But like all of these Sid and Marty Krofft shows, they took all of these sitcom stars from the 60s and put him in the show. Like the kid, I forget his name, who was the star of Family Affair and The Little
yeah.
Prince.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
He was the star of Sigmund the Sea Monster.
Oh.
And then we had bitch.
Ooh.
We had Butch Patrick
Yes.
with the craziest, biggest do. I think the biggest thing was all these young men were competing to see who could have the most voluminous hair of any of these young Sid Marty Krofft stars. So anyway, Butch Patrick is having a really fun day at the amusement park. It's like a Disney, that's Six Flags kind of thing, it looks like.
Yeah.
And he goes to a magic show by a magician named Merlot. So
Of course.
he watches the show and he's just fascinated by the crap that Merlot's pulling out of his hat. He's got to figure out what's the deal with his hat. What's the deal with this hat?
Yeah.
So he sneaks backstage. And this is all sung in the almost 2-minute opening of every show. We tell the story. So he finds the hat. And then the hat grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's when the hat got big. Then when the hat got big.
Wow.
That's when the hat got big.
Yeah.
Bloop.
And
He
then-
falls
and he
in.
falls in.
Boopity, 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 all through these dimensions. Right into Lidsville, which is populated by anthropomorphic hats.
Of course it is.
Awesome hats. And Mr. Charles
Oh,
Nelson
yeah.
Riley.
Charles Nelson Riley.
And
had
the
great
wonderful,
makeup.
wonderful Billy Hayes
Oh, Billy
as
Hayes.
Weenie the Genie
Oh.
in several episodes. So they had all the same folks in their stuff.
They would,
but-
they would use the same talent a lot.
Yes, but I don't want. I mean, they were both individually wonderful shows.
Right.
So I want to separate them. And also, one other quick correction. So I made a mistake with the banana splits. Tra la 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 la. Tra la 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 la. They weren't all bears. Okay.
Oh,
There was a bear and a dog.
was there a banana?
There was a bear, a beer. There was a no. There weren't any bananas. Strangely,
Bananas.
But they were a band. They were a
called the
band
Banana-
called the
because
Banana
the band
Splits.
was called the Banana Splits.
But there was a
Okay.
bear. We had a lion. We had a dog. We had an elephant, and something. I don't know. But they weren't all bears, so I was wrong about that. There were a bunch of
they were
costume
kind
mode.
They kind of looked like they were like Showbiz Pizza or like
Kind of.
like that kind of anthropomorphic.
Yes,
giant
and they
animals, yeah.
actually did go on tour. Like there was a
Oh, they
lot of
did?
in the opening. There's a lot
Oh,
of
wow.
shots of them playing it like amusement parks. And
You know,
stuff.
it's funny playing the theme song because the first time I ever heard it, I was too young before the Banana Splits, but I heard a punk band do a cover of that.
Oh, yeah. So
and
many bands have done
it.
it,
Might have
yeah.
actually been me first in the Gimme Gimmes, but yeah. It was one of those. That's where I first heard it.
So I'm sure we made a ton more mistakes, but those are the ones that I can think of. So.
All right. Well, that's good though. We're owning up to our mistakes.
Yes.
That's the first step in.
Well, I also don't want
AA.
to look. I don't care about anything, man. I will give you misinformation about the country, about anything, but not about cartoons.
But it's about what you remember, and we get so involved in it at the time. You know, it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter
Right.
because it just gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of those cartoons you love.
You know, I'll share a story, and my sister will call and say, "You know, I didn't really happen that way," and she'll explain the way it happened, and she's right. But it's just your mind remembers things a certain way, and instead of being
yeah.
really, responsible and trying to figure out the exact truth, we're just gonna go off the cuff, off the top of our minds,
It's
because it's
fine.
more interesting that way, anyway.
All right. Well, let's get into this month's topic, which is summer school. Not summer school.
Summer school. Is that really?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know where you've been the last month, but no, summer and going back to school. The whole going back to school thing.
Yes, school. School in the SEVs and the AIDS.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
70s and 80s.
And not the AIDS.
Well, there
although
was the
it was
AIDS, yeah,
AIDS
the
in the
birth
80s.
of it.
But, yeah. So I think appropriate we start with grade school.
School for me was a really weird thing to begin with because my scholastic career began in La Jolla. I skipped kindergarten, went right into the first grade. I was like 5 years old or something. And didn't go to preschool or any of that crap. Just shoved me into school. And I went to this school called the Evans School for Boys and Girls. And there were 7 of us. It was one of those like super gifted, you know. We were doing complex math problems and book reports. And I was at home reading Rikki Tikki Tavi and the Jungle Book. And it was awesome, man, because it was just 100%. You got a ton of attention. There was only 7 of us.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Bunch of weirdos, man. Even at that age, man, we were doing weird stuff. Don't put smart kids together. But we moved from La Jolla to Escondido, and my mom was on a forever quest to find a school that would match up.
Right.
And it was
Of
impossible.
Evans,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I went to so many different schools because she'd put me into a public school, and then a public school would be garbage. And then she'd yank me out, put me into this other school, and I'd do it for a while. And then there's another one that's probably better. And
Right.
so it was a lot of just going from school to school.
How many? Do you know how many schools or do you have any idea how many you went to? Before
like
high
with
school?
before high school, I think it was 6 or 7,
Ooh.
and then 3 high schools.
Was it hard to make friends?
No, not really. Like,
Okay. Well, you're a pretty outgoing guy, so I mean,
I don't know. Maybe yes, it was. There was like when you're young, it's not as hard to make friends.
That's true.
Because you're
That's
just
true.
like, come over
It's
and
just
play
like-
Star Wars, guys.
Yeah,
you know,
hey.
it's like whatever. Sometimes it was hard being the new kid, but I also didn't really care.
yeah.
Like I'd rather just go home and
Right,
and read
right,
or
right. No,
play
same,
Legos or do whatever. And I had friends that lived next door and stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah. You also, yeah, okay.
so it's like, but yeah, it was weird because I would just get so bored because public school was so stupid. You
Yeah,
you didn't really
yeah.
learn anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you did, but it was just, phonics and I was already reading novel. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's just not. I'm not like some super genius or whatever.
Sure.
Like
Like Cameron Crowe.
Cameron Crowe. I mean, I'm like
You didn't know, you only skipped one grade, not
at least
three.
one and three. But yeah, I mean, it was always my mom trying to find the good school,
Yeah.
and it was difficult, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, but it was also like, I was a messed up kid to begin with. I had a lot of, issues and stuff. So there was this one, I'll tell one story because there's tons of them, but this one burns into my brain. I used to ride the bus to one of these schools. And so, we would walk to the bus stop. It was a few blocks away from the house. And we had a bus stop bully, Jack.
Jack the
Jack
bus
the bus
stop
stop bully.
bully.
He was a few grades ahead of us. He was probably like the way I remember it, he was like 2 feet taller than us and just
Just like
towering.
35.
He was a
Still in
skinny
grade
little
school.
freckle-faced kid who, bullied the little kids to get their lunch money. Or,
Literally to get their lunch money?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or take their sandwiches or just push them around.
Just try to throw his weight around, yeah.
Exactly. Just being a jerk. It was like, oh, here comes Jack, And it built and it built. And I had a little anger problem when I was younger. My old man died on my 3rd birthday, and it made me mad. And
Really?
it made me very, very mad. And so
imagine, yeah.
I had a lot of anger. There was this time where Jack was just really going to town on everybody, making all the kids cry. And he pushed this little girl, girl I had a crush on,
Oh, no.
pushed her down so hard, her little bottom slapped the ground into a puddle.
Oh, no.
So she starts crying. She's all dirty. She's hurt. And he's laughing and he's laughing. And I lose my mind.
Yeah.
I scream in rage. And I lift up my Scooby-Doo lunchbox.
Oh, no.
One of those metal bad boys.
Yeah.
Weighted down with a thermos inside.
Oh, yeah.
And I wail on Jack. Bang, 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 smack, 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 smack. Biggity, baggity, boogity, bagga, boogity, bigga, bigga, bigga. Man, I felt like hours that I was beating this kid with this lunchbox. The thermos goes flying. By the time I was done, the lunchbox was just a mangled piece of metal that didn't
no.
have any resemblance to a lunchbox anymore.
Poor Scooby-Doo.
Jack, bawling his brains out, more humiliated than anything else,
Well,
probably.
yeah. Well, it's the first time somebody stood up to him.
Oh, he was bleeding
Yeah.
a little bit too. Though.
Well,
I mean, I got him
yes,
some good pops.
yes.
Not super proud of this, a little proud of it, but he never bullied us again.
Good.
And every time he saw me, it was like he eyeballed down to my lunchbox because of course I got a new one. I think I got a $6 million man after that one, which was
Nice.
the one I really wanted. So it was a win-win for me.
Right.
The sad thing is a couple of years after that, Jack was hit by a car.
Oh, no.
He lived,
Oh.
but he was effed up.
Messed
Like,
up.
His
Oh,
one of his
no.
legs like shattered.
Oh, no.
And he spent like 2 years in a hospital bed. And when he came back to school, he was.
Well, there's a thing called karma.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a kid, though. Here's the thing. It's like, yeah, he was a little bit of an a-hole, but, I mean, he's a kid. He didn't deserve to be hit by a car because he was a bully.
Yeah, he did.
All right, Jack, if you're listening, Adam says you got your come-ups.
I actually went to Catholic school for the first 6 years, up to 6th grade, and much the same, I think, with you in your public school in Escondido or whatever. I learned phonics. That was the only real thing that I took away from
you hooked
Catholic
on it?
school. I was.
You were hooked on phonics?
But it made me very similarly to you. I just wanted to read. Like,
Yeah.
I read all the time. Like, that's all I wanted to do. Bit of a loner, but I had friends, but like neighborhood friends and stuff. But eventually, in 6th grade, I realized very young that I was like, yeah, Catholic school isn't doing anything for me anymore. And my parents figured this out, and they asked me, just sat down and asked me, do you want to go to public school? There was literally half a block up the street from me was the middle school, and I was like, yes.
Was it a Jesuit?
No.
Okay,
No.
because those are the best, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you learn a lot from them Jezzies.
But I realized very early, and so when my parents sat me down and said, do you want to keep going to the Catholic school? I thought about it for literally like 10 seconds. Go, no, like I'm going to go up here. So I go to this public school, and the first year I go in, and they had to take pictures, and it was this picture day, you know.
Ooh.
I was waiting in
Very
line.
special day.
Yeah, and I didn't care, but my mom wanted the
Of course,
pictures.
she wanted those 3x5s for her wallet.
Right.
She probably got the deluxe package with
And
two
I- oh,
big
yeah.
5x.
We still have the pictures.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man, those
the
are
big
most
8x10s or
worst.
whatever. Yeah.
I got one with me with braces and a perm. And I'm Chubb.
So we're waiting in line, and this kid comes up, and he'd always been messing with me. And, you know, I took a lot of pride in the fact that I meticulously did my hair and made sure I looked good. 'Cause
Still
it
do.
was for my mom.
Yeah.
You know, like it was for
You're
my
like
mom.
Fonzie when it comes to your hair,
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You're very, very particular.
So waiting in line, I'm about 5 people away, and the kid comes up, and he just messes my hair up. And I was like, And I was like, okay. And the teacher said, okay, go, you know, get out of line, go, you know, do your
Comb your hair,
comb
damn
your
it.
hair. And I mean, she was really nice about it because she saw the kid do
Yeah.
it, and he got yelled at. And then I come back, and the kid does it again.
Ah.
And I turned to him, and I yelled at him, "F you," as loud as I could.
Whoa. But you used the swear.
Everyone went quiet, and the teacher looked at me, and he was shocked that I said this.
Well, sure.
And I just started bawling, and I ran out of the room. And the teacher followed me into the bathroom and said, just do what you need to, take care, you know, compose yourself, do your thing. And they even waited like an extra half hour with the photographer.
Wow.
And then they pulled me out. My cheeks were all red and blotchy.
Aw.
And they're like, do you want to wait? And the photographer even was like, I can come back. And I was like, no, we're doing this now. And we got those pictures taken, and he came back. My mom was like, your face looks so weird.
Do you have those
I
pictures?
never
You
told
should
her.
put them up on our
My mom
Facebook
has them,
page.
yeah. No, I don't have them. My mom has them.
Get your mom to send us. I got to see these.
It was the first time I ever swore in front of an adult, and I was so mad because it was
Man,
like
you know, those adults in the teacher's lounge were like, did you hear that, Adam kid?
I was so mad, and it made me rethink, like, should I have gone to public school? Like, should I have done this?
Oh, yeah.
And the kid didn't mess with me after that, but like,
Yeah, you're throwing F-bombs around, baby.
I
You're
was
dangerous
so
business.
pissed. Like, it was so, you know, and it's because it was all for my mom. Like, that was if my mom didn't care,
It doesn't.
I wouldn't have cared.
Well, no, you would have, because he's messing with your space, man. It doesn't matter if he's poking you or rubbing your hair or flicking your nose. I mean, he's getting in your biz. It's bullshit.
It is. It was annoying, and I don't remember the kid's name. I can still see his face. God, that memory is just so burned hard into my subconscious.
Adam, that kid was me.
No, it was not.
It was me.
You were held back a few years.
No,
Is that
well, yes. And I was an exchange student from California.
California?
They wanted me to see how the gross part of the country lived.
Yeah. Thanks. But you know, it was all worthwhile because at the end of the day, going to public school, I met my best friend Damien, which I think he listens to this. So hi, Damien.
Damien. Is
he's
he the
amazing.
son of the devil?
No.
You sure? Did you check his head for
I have a-
666?
I have a very. At some point, we'll go through it. But
How
I have
old is Damien, by the way?
My age is 43.
So Damien was named after.
It's Damien with an A, not with an E.
Still, though.
Yeah.
He was named Damien after.
Yes. My family has a
Omen
very
came
long history with his family, and it's something at some point we'll go into. But Damien's amazing. He's a great guy.
Sure, but it's just weird to me that somebody would name their kid Damien
But it's
after.
spelled different.
It doesn't. So if his name is Satan, but it's spelled Saitan,
Itan?
then it's okay.
Sure.
Hey, baby. Look, I think Damien's a cool name. I'm just saying, back then, everybody that had that name after that movie came out got some S.
He was amazing. He got me into comic books. Like, we played video games. Not D&D. We played a Marvel game together that was the same. But I met him, and on top of that, leading into the high school, in 8th grade, I took a test, and they ended up putting me into a quote-unquote special school. But it was a campus where it was all... essentially, the Des Moines public schools, they consolidated all of their like college classes and the high end, not high end. What am I trying to say?
High end.
The high end. The smart kid, the AP
Right.
classes stuff. They, instead of having teachers at each high school, they just had everybody bust down to one place. And
Sure. I want to separate the smarts from the dumbs.
Yeah, essentially. I actually went to 2 high schools at the same time. I would go to one in the morning and then one in the afternoon. And much like you, with your Evans school, the central campus was very small classes.
Yeah.
And they were technically college professors
Ooh.
teaching us. So I actually went into college with a full year of credits because of central campus. But
Very
I met
cool.
most of my lifelong friends came from that high school. So you went to 3 different high schools.
I did. I had an interesting high school career. I went to, in junior high, I went to Lutheran school
Oh.
for 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where I think I talked about this, where I would, Mr. Bell was the catechism teacher.
Oh.
And because I was Catholic, and, every Christian brand needs to have its own set of rules.
Of course
that
it does.
doesn't jibe with the other Christian brand. So he'd be like, when Jesus blah, 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 and I'd be like, nope, that's not how it works in Catholicism, baby. And so finally he'd be like, you're being very disruptive to the class, and I'm going to have to ask you to step outside until the class is finished. And this would happen at least once a week. And he couldn't get me in trouble because I was basically just sticking up for my religion. So it was this really weird Mr. Bell. I used to make cartoons of him, cartoon books.
Nice.
Because he had this bowl cut, and so I'd draw him wearing a bowl on his head, and I'd call him Mr. Bowl. And I would pass it. The kids loved him, made me popular.
Nice.
And he never caught on. Grace Lutheran, I think the name of it. And it was a pretty good school. So from there, I was able to get into the Bishop's School for Boys and Girls.
Oh, wow.
For high school, which was in friggin' La Jolla, which means I would have to drive an hour
Oh, God.
in carpool to school every day from other people in Escondido.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And an hour home. And I did not want to go to this school. All of my friends were going to San Pasquale, which was the public school.
Right.
And at that time, man, I had this unnatural hatred of preppies. And I would write these. I was a big Mad Magazine fan, so I wrote a lot of cartoon books as a kid.
Right.
That's how I learned how to channel my rage as a middle schooler, was in cartoon form. So I'd draw all these cartoons about preppy kids and Izod shirts. I hated all that stuff, and I was so against all of it. And I go to this school, and to top it off, I was a little chubby. I made a big mistake. I had a lot of friends that had curly hair, right? And we swam a lot. I loved swimming. Swimming was my favorite thing. I was in the pool as much as I was out of it, baby. I was a fish.
Yeah.
And what I was so jealous of was my buddies with curly hair. They get out of the pool, shickety, 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 and their hair's just fine, Didn't have to put any product in it. Didn't have to do, you had to look good back then
Oh, yeah.
because of the girlies.
Oh, yeah.
Or the boys,
Yeah,
depending on. But for me, it was the girlies. And so I was like, I want curly hair so I can from a swimming. So I convinced my mom to go get me a perm. And even the hairdresser was like, are you sure that you want to do this? Because I don't think you're going to get what you think you're going to get. Because I thought I'd get these tight, kinky curl, Oh, boy. She finished. Not only was I a little chubby, I had braces. And now I had the hair of an 85-year-old woman. It was like a bouffant do. And talk about holding back them hot tears when I first saw it, man. And she even
God.
saw it. She was like, I'm sorry, but I want you. And she's like, maybe it'll relax a little bit. And it did relax a little bit. It wasn't,
Yeah.
it was fine. So I get to Bishop's with my braces and my permanent, and I'm not very popular.
No.
I did play football because it was the first year they had a football team, and my mom was always making me play football because my real dad was a football player. So
Oh, yeah.
as a tribute to him, she forced me to play football. Since 7th grade, I played flag football. And then,
Yeah.
this was my first tackle. I never played Pop Warner or whatever, so this was my
Oh, yeah.
first, And so since it was their first team and there wasn't a lot of people on it, I ended up playing varsity.
Oh, jeez.
I just got my butt kicked, man. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was so afraid. And so I was still a nerd. Even though I was on the football team, I was still a nerd. And I would hang out with these other nerds, and, we would just play D&D, or we would do nerd things. And one of my nerd buddies was a gentleman named Andrew Cunanan.
Oh, God.
And I don't know if people don't know, Andrew ended up being a spree killer who murdered Gianni Versace and several other people, which was just insane, man. Literally, I mean, look, I knew the kid when we were freshmen in high school. This is before all the stuff happened. I mean, he wasn't a gigolo or anything then. He was just a nerdy little kid like the rest of us. And he was a snide little kid, and we knew he was gay. And even though he didn't maybe know it at the time, but he was still one of us misfits. You know, there was him and this Chris Minor and a couple other kids. You know, we were always hanging out together. And I hated that school so much. Hated it so much because it was just a bunch of rich kids like doing cocaine and shit. And it was just not my speed. I didn't like the vibe. I didn't like the kids. I didn't like, I wanted to be with my peeps.
Sure.
I don't know, man. Sure. I was just unhappy. But so I convinced at the beginning of I did the whole freshman. At the beginning of my sophomore, I convinced my folks. It was easy to convince the old man that I wanted to go to public school. I was like, look, I'm not happy here. I hate driving. I hate the kids. Everybody's mean to me. Blah, blah, blah. I want to go to public school with my friends. Let me go to San Pasquale. And my mom didn't want to because she was smart enough to realize that place was a pit of nothing and it wouldn't get me into college. She was
right.
But she relented because the old man was like, well, yeah, because he didn't want to pay the money for bishops. That thing was
save
pricey,
some cash.
baby.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, let him go. Let the kid do what he wants. So so I switch over to...
This was at the end of your freshman year?
This is the beginning of my sophomore
Beginning of your sophomore year, yeah.
And I had one of my best friends, Phil. He was a couple years older than me. We made movies together and hung out together. And but he went to San Pasquale. So when I went there, he and I hung out. He was a senior. And he's like the coolest guy now. An awesome dude, but at the time, he was a drama nerd. We were all drama nerds, Sure. We weren't hanging out with the creme of the crop. I definitely wasn't playing football there because I was, one of those Friday night lights.
Oh yeah.
I would have got, killed. And,
yeah.
and luckily I got there after the tryouts because I know my mom would have made me try out. So I luckily skirted that so I could just be a nerd. That school was so awful. Like the math class she would start every math class with a Trivial Pursuit card.
Oh God.
It had nothing to do with math.
No. What is that?
We weren't learning anything really in math.
Getting to know you games. Yeah.
And then English, if you could read a book and do a book report and get points. Mm-hmm. And if you did enough book reports, you could fail everything else.
Not
and still
do
get
anything
a B
else.
or an A, depending on what you did.
Right.
And I love to read, so I would do the book reports. But then it got to the point where I was like, I wasn't even reading. I just read the back jacket, a couple of pages here and there, and then just make up the story. Find an obscure book that I know that she wouldn't have read.
Yeah.
And then just, use my improv skills to make up this elaborate thing. And was able, it was all I did was just con and scheme and finagle my way,
You should have gotten to politics.
Yeah, well, speaking of, so the weird thing about this school was I went to school with Tom Metzger's kid.
Tom Metzger is...
was the head of the KKK.
Oh, jeez.
Weird that he was in Escondido.
Why in Escondido?
I have no idea, baby. But we would get... we come to school, and we would get these dollar bills that would be in our locker. There's these white-looking dollar bills that were like, wake up, white people. The N-words are diggity-doo. And just these horribly racist things. But here's the thing, man. And I think I might have mentioned this before.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder to be a racist back then because you had to create this document, right? And then you had to, mimeograph it and then cut it.
Right.
And then
it took a lot more work.
Take all of these hundreds, because there's a big school, hundreds of things that you created that must have taken hours.
Yeah, you got to be really committed.
And then, not only that, you got to go to the school. You got to put one in every locker, and these are hundreds and hundreds of lockers.
Right.
I'm just saying. It's
no admiration
you
for that.
You really had to be a friggin' racist. Like,
yeah.
you knew you were a racist back then. You weren't dabbling your toes in. You were like, I'm in because this is so much work.
Like these racist keyboard warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
Spout off whatever. And
it's awful. And it was so gross to come to school and have those in there. And that kid, too, man, he had a lot of, like, there was a group, him and a group of whatevers.
Yeah.
And it was a really weird thing. I didn't know the kid. I didn't want to know the kid.
Yeah.
We were a bunch of drama nerds, man. We had, like, great gay friends and whatever.
Yeah,
and, We were all the misfits.
More diverse.
Yeah, exactly. All the high school misfits at the time.
Right.
So we didn't have any interest in racism. I had a really good friend, Larry. Remember Larry?
Yeah, Larry.
Oh, Larry.
Yeah, with the
laser tag Larry.
Yeah, laser tag Larry.
Larry was my absolute best friend growing up. My absolute best friend. He would hang out with Phil and our little group of misfits.
Yeah.
But Larry was going to La Jolla Country Day, which is another private school. And because I was just like this, even then I was like, this is a waste of time. If I keep going to this high school, I'm not going to
San Pasqual.
Yeah, because I won't get to college because I'm not going to,
you're not going to learn anything.
No. Yeah. And all my friends are leaving because they were seniors.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to go to school with Larry. I want to go to La Jolla Country Day, which is strange because that's, I went to like daycare there or something when I was a little kid.
Weird.
So my grades weren't amazing because I was so bored there.
Right.
So I had to take a test, which I aced to get in. But I think the thing that got me into La Jolla Country Day was the essay that I wrote.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote this essay that could not have been a stinkier, more enormous pile of bullshit. I wrote this thing about, this is so gross. So I wrote this essay about how my dad gave me this teddy bear when I was just a young baby. And after he died, I would bring that teddy bear. Like, I made this whole thing up about this teddy bear and how, it helped me through and blah, blah, blah. I never got a teddy bear. Yeah. I don't think I even owned a teddy bear when I was a kid. I like a Snoopy dog. But, total BS.
Yeah.
Total heartstrings. I was a sociopath back then,
It worked.
I think.
Yeah.
100% worked. Got me in there like, look, you got to take a typing class. But we'll let you in. So I was like, okay.
Your essay's great. Your typing's terrible. What?
So I don't even get it because I didn't type fast enough during the test, I think.
Oh.
And I still don't. I still type like a bastard.
You do.
Yeah, I didn't learn a damn thing in that summer school.
Peck and hunt. That's Jim.
I can get going if I'm, but so okay. So I get to La Jolla Country Day. Now, just by a hair, I miss going to school with Tucker Carlson. And just to set the record straight, I know that teacher that he talked about that said that she would cry and talk about all the...
Oh, yeah.
He's so full of... I mean, surprise, spoiler alert, he's full of crap.
Yeah.
She was an amazing teacher, just like all the teachers there. That school, I will have to say, because it was a non-denominational, it was a secular private school. It was small. There was like 50 kids in the class.
Yeah,
And it was a place where you could do anything. Like there was no cliques. Like I could get along with all, I played football and baseball and track, but I was also did all the plays and was the lead of the plays and got to be, so it was a really fun place to finish out my career because it was like, Larry and I own that school, man. But yeah, it's just like I got a chance to do so much at that school. It was so much fun. That was that. When I think of my high school experience, I think of La Jolla Country Day. Like the other two were kind of missteps, but that was
it sometimes takes a while to get to the right place. You know? I mean, I get that.
A lot of great people, a lot of great. I mean, I'm still like Facebook friends with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. Don't really speak to most people.
Yeah,
misanthropist, but no, but it's really it was an interesting time because it was the 80s. I don't know. I have good and bad feelings about high school.
Yeah, I don't know. I never did. I never do because high school was kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Part of it was fine. Part of it was good. But
Yeah.
like to me, college was going to be the thing because
Right.
college was the thing where you're away from your parents and you're away from everybody. And,
Drugs.
and drugs. Yeah. And I mean, even going to the two high schools, like it was the second I could drive, it was so great because the central campus was literally 4 minutes away from my home high school.
Oh, nice.
And so they would give us one period during the day was our travel period. So and it bled into my lunch. And so I literally had 2 hours off in the middle of each day.
Oh, wow.
And it would take me 4 minutes to get to wherever we were eating with my friends. We just hang out for an hour and a half and then go do the classes. And it was great because the AP teachers were so incredibly decisive and like they didn't waffle about things. Like I had my AP European history teacher was very liberal, extremely liberal.
Yeah.
And the AP US history teacher was extremely conservative.
Ooh.
And you would catch them in the hallway just screaming at each other. And like you're in high school and you're like, you can do that?
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember high school, our history teacher taught us like the real history. You know, she was so passionate about not whitewashing history and to the point where like some parents got upset with her, but you know, they didn't fire her. That was back then when people would complain and they'd be like, okay,
well, yeah, it's
we heard
school.
ya.
Yeah, it is what it is.
you can take your kid out of school if you want, but we're not going to change.
Yeah, I love those teachers. They were great. My favorite was Ms. Cotton. She taught our AP comparative literature class. Ooh. And I have a tendency when I yawn really loudly. And it's never because I'm bored. It's just I yawn loudly. And
it's gross.
Ms. Cotton hated it.
Yeah, well, you're yawning loudly in her class, of
Hated
course.
it.
I would hate it too.
From the first day, she determined that I was just an awful person. And to the point where she actually stuck me away from the other students at a giant desk, facing the other students, and I eventually just started sitting there because I was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. I would just read during class. I paid attention, but like, you know, what's comparative literature? Like, what are you teaching? Really?
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah.
And it got to the point where the other students started getting jealous because I would just do my own thing, and it got down to I'll never forget the final paper of that year. It was like a 10-page term paper, and I did a comparison between Grendel and Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye.
Well, Grendel was the John Gardner adaptation from the early 70s from Grendel's point of view.
Yeah,
but it was about being alone, you know, and the paper was great. I literally waited till the night before to do it, and I wrote a 10-page paper. She was handing them back, and she pointed out this one girl and said, "Oh, look, here's Christy. She got the only perfect score," and hands it back. 360 out of 360. She's so great. She hands me my test. My test had a perfect 360 out of 360 on it, and she refused to acknowledge it.
Weird.
She even said that, oh, Christy was going to get 359, but I need to have somebody with a perfect score in the class. I was just like, granted, at this point, I was like leaving school, so I was just like, whatever, I don't care. But
you didn't scream "F you"?
No.
Run out.
I learned in the 5 years since then. But she was crazy. She'd fall asleep during class. She was way too old to be teaching.
Yeah. There's the good teachers and the bad teachers.
But I learned from her, and she, at the end of it, like, she kind of was like a grudging, like, respect to the fact that I just put up with her crap for all year.
There you go. And then
it was fun.
Now you're married.
And now I'm married. Yeah, no, she's dead.
Well,
she is very far dead, as far as I know. I don't want to say that too loudly.
Yeah, I always gravitated towards the English teachers, Mrs. Hensley and Mr. Lee, and I was really good friends with the dean of students at La Jolla Country Day. Mm-hmm. We hung out after I graduated. Like,
oh wow!
I had an apartment in San Diego my first summer back, and we had her over for dinner and talked about like doing mushrooms and stuff. It was really cool.
My AP European history class, I'll never forget. He gave us, because you do the AP tests like 2 weeks before finals, and the teacher was like, "I'm not going to give you guys a final, but I'm going to give you a test." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he handed us a test. Didn't tell us what it was. I was just like, well, this is not worth my grades, so I just abacadabra the whole way. It was the Iowa Highway Patrolman's test.
Oh.
And off of the abacadabra, I passed it.
Nice.
which made me not feel very confident about the cops that were running around my state.
There you go. One thing that I was really lucky about growing up in California is we used to party on the beach.
Oh, yeah.
And we would make our own California cooler where you would get a cooler.
Yeah.
And you'd fill it with wine and fruit and 7-Up and sherbet and all sorts of shit. And you mix it all up.
Oh, just everything in the cooler.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then you just dunk your
Oh, yeah,
drinks
like a
into
big
the cooler.
punch bowl kind of thing.
We partied so much at the beach, bonfires and stuff, that we had a time capsule at school at our graduation, we had this time capsule that we,
Yeah.
a time capsule, you put it in the ground.
You put them in the ground
dig it up
and
years later to be like, look what we
I don't
put in there.
understand what time capsules
As
are.
president of the class, during the graduation ceremony, I was putting things in the time capsule, the stuff that we had put in. And the stuff that we'd put in was a Corona bottle filled with sand from the beach that we went to and partied most of the time.
Nice.
My friend Jonathan Crosby's dead gerbil
Oh,
in a baggie.
wow.
And there was something else that was really questionable that we put in too. That was like, Larry and I were the ones doing because he was vice president.
Right, of course.
Poor Larry, man. He was such a great guy. I was such a jerk. He decides, he's like, I think I'm going to run for president of the class.
No.
And I was like, I think I want to run for president. I think I'm going to run for president.
Oh,
And
you
he's
were
like, what?
that guy,
Yeah,
Jim.
I think I want to run for president. And then Mrs. Boyd, the dean, was like, Larry, we need you to run for vice president. So poor Larry had to run for vice president. We win. I win president. He wins vice president. I'm like Trump, man. I just want the title, baby. I don't care about any of this
You
stuff.
don't care. Yeah.
So poor Larry had to do all the work. But it was just like, that was the thing. Larry and I growing up, we were like Goofus and Gallant. If you've ever seen the Highlights magazine, there was this thing called Goofus and Gallant. And it was like Goofus talks back to all of the teachers, and Gallant gives them presents like apples and candies. And so Larry was a really good kid from a really good family, real smart, snappy banjo player.
Nice.
Absolutely gorgeous. Guy looked like Tom Cruise, like a blonde Tom Cruise.
Wow.
But he was, God love him, he was really naive, which made him come across he was just a sweet, smart guy that wanted to trust people.
Yeah.
Larry was always the good influence, and I was the bad influence. Larry got me to play football or go to the gym or study or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'd get Larry to go out and drink or go out and go to a party or go. So we balanced each other out really well.
Yeah.
And this dynamic in high school was great because the teachers would use Larry to try to get me to do, because the way I approached high school or school after the whole Evans debacle and getting bored was, I'll study stuff that I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't stuff that I don't.
Oh, no.
I'll still pass the tests.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how it is. It's like you're
Oh, no,
lucky
that's-
enough to be,
yeah.
But it's just, I didn't see the point. And the whole like show your work crap, I hated
Oh,
that
no,
because it's
no.
like, I know the answer, man.
Yeah.
Why do I have to jump through hoops?
That was the thing the only thing I ever got in trouble for growing up was the fact that I just never did my homework.
Yeah.
I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Until I got to the central campus and I took one AP class. And I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then I failed the first test. And then because I didn't read anything,
Right,
I didn't
right,
do
right.
anything. And the teacher, I keep saying this, I'll never forget this. I had to go to my dad with a slip and have him sign it. And I hung out with him in his workshop for a while, and he finally just stopped and was like, what's going on? Like, I know you don't come down here unless there's something you need. And I just started crying, and I was like, I'm failing this class. Like,
Wow.
I screwed this up. And he goes, okay, like, I appreciate the fact that you came to me. He's like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
I got an A on the next test. Teacher called my parents up and said, I've never seen anybody do this before. Literally be failing, and then immediately turned around. And I was like, yeah, because I actually read the stuff.
There you go.
And realized I was not better than the work.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I was better than the work, and I still am. And I always will be.
Well, I didn't learn that lesson for very long. I lost a college scholarship because of doing that crap.
Oh, baby. College, man. And that was the thing, too. It was like, it was really hard going to college. Like,
Yeah.
just the change. I
Yeah.
had such really close friends. You know, your
Yeah.
high school friends, if you're lucky enough to have that tribe or that group or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It was, Larry went to, where did Larry go? Colgate? Which was,
You're like asking me.
no, he went to Colgate, I think. Yeah, Larry went to Colgate.
Let me check my Larry notebook.
Which was fairly
Oh, yeah,
close
yeah,
to Boston. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
got to
yeah.
visit him a couple times. Our friend Marcy went to school in Colorado, and I got to visit her there. And my crush, the woman that I loved. Oh man, I can't wait till we do our moonlighting episode,
Oh yeah.
because I was obsessed with that show in high school,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
I had this what I thought was a
Oh
very
no.
similar relationship between
Yeah.
the two of them. But it was this girl that I just loved, but we like fooled around, but she wouldn't really date me. But she wasn't. It was like one of those like
Yeah.
best friends. And,
Yeah.
and this BS went on like all through college and after.
Oh,
college.
wow.
It's like, yeah,
Wow.
we would spend Thanksgiving every year together
Oh, yeah.
during
Yeah.
college, and then a little bit after, and yeah, man, that messed me up.
Yeah. I had
But
a-
it was my own doing. I mean, you know.
Yeah, no, it's same. I had the same. My first real crush, this same best friend, and we never really. It wasn't until after high school, but we went all through high school, and then after high school, we kind of messed around a bit. And
Yeah.
I have a really gnarly story that I'm not going to tell, but it messed me up. It definitely messed.
But it was just looking back on it, it was just so silly. It's just the thing that we tend to forget, and I think it's probably something that when you have kids, it comes back, and because you
Yeah,
relive it
yeah.
through them. But we forget just how traumatic
Oh,
and
yeah.
difficult and just
yeah.
dire high school was.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the 80s movies was they really captured that feeling.
Kind of high tension. Yeah.
But just what it is to be a
Yeah,
kid, and
yeah.
and the pressure.
How everything is the end of the world.
Yes, and your hormones, and
Yeah.
and it's just such a difficult time. But we tend to romanticize it because it was
Sure.
a time of not a lot of responsibility. You're all, I can't wait till I'm old enough and I don't have to do homework. Nobody tells me what to do. I can stay out all night and take my car anywhere. And then you get older and you're like, man, I just wish I was back in high school.
I'd take an hour of homework anytime.
Doing that homework, smooching. So I guess grass is always greener. But I feel very fortunate that I got to live a lot of different high school lives.
Yeah.
I got to be the
Yeah, that's pretty
nerd,
cool.
and the fat
Yeah.
kid, and I got to be an athlete, and I got to be popular and unpopular,
Yeah,
and bullied and a bully, and all these different things that I think helps you become a little more well-rounded, but also kind of gives you. I think it enforced my empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you're on the other side of being popular and the other side of whatever, if you get to the side of being popular,
Yeah.
then you're less likely to be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that goes in high school when you're younger. Like I remember in going into like sixth grade, like fifth to sixth grade, into middle school from grade school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had a couple of really nerdy buds, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
whew, like we're talking.
Hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got a little popular in sixth grade.
Oh.
And I dropped them like a ton of bricks. So mean. Just that, that like,
Yeah.
like you were talking about,
Yeah,
where the guy,
okay.
you're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to go
I
do
got-
the thing. And
I got the new toy.
yeah,
And he's
yeah,
like, what?
I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
fool. Look at this nerd. Look at this fool. Ugh,
So
the worst.
embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, there's still things that I think of from grade school and high school where I
Yeah,
just,
oh, yeah.
I cringe at my behavior.
heat.
It's
You can
just-
feel the heat
oh,
coming on
man.
of
Oh,
the-
you're
yeah.
just the feeling of being such a jerk. But I guess that proves I'm not a sociopath
Yeah.
because I have empathy and feelings.
You do. You do.
I hurt people constantly, but I occasionally feel bad about it, so that's okay.
Well, my beer's gone and we're out of time.
Yeah.
So
my 7 and 7 has been sucked down.
God knows we have a billion other stories.
Oh,
we
my
could
God.
talk about.
Didn't even talk about how I used to go to Tijuana every weekend.
Oh wow,
in high school.
That's crazy.
The
In
trouble.
high school? Wow.
Baby.
Oh, I guess that's
'Cause we
true.
could
San
drink.
Diego. Yeah, yeah.
We all had 18-year-old fake IDs that we basically just wrote on a piece of paper, "I'm 18," and they'd be like, "Muy bien."
Okay.
Yeah,
Give me
but
your money.
we'll definitely go into some. We got to have like a show where we go into all of our mischiefs because I
Oh,
think
yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
statute of limitations has run out on most of them.
I hope so.
Yes. But well, hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble on. Well, mostly me ramble on
Reminisce.
about
Yeah.
what it was like being young. Now you kind of know why we are the way we are.
Just a small sliver, the tip of the iceberg of why we are screwed up as we are.
Yes. But next, we're coming up on October.
Yeah, a little bit of Spooktober.
Ooh, Spooktober, where we're going to be doing Night of the Living Dead
Yeah,
and
very
Texas
excited.
Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, and the original Halloween.
Yeah, we lucky enough. October this year is 5 weeks, so we're
Yeah,
gonna do
we got
5
an extra show.
spooky shows.
And I think on the Stepdad show, I'll tell my story about growing up in a haunted house.
we're gonna have a very special spooky stepdad show.
And you know what, man? You didn't tell us about those murders that you
Oh
promised.
my God, I didn't.
You bastard.
What
What were they? The hi-fi murders?
The hi-fi
okay,
murders.
come on. Give us the
All right,
quickie.
here we go.
Give us a quickie.
So these two guys, they were in the Air Force in Utah, outside of Ogden, and they decided they were going to rob this hi-fi store.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, the kind of mastermind of it, decided that whoever they kidnapped, they were going to murder.
Damn.
He just said, "Screw it, we're going to murder."
That guy wanted to be a murderer.
He watched a movie where someone drank Drano and died immediately.
Ugh.
So he poured Drano down the throat of 3 different people.
Oh, good Lord.
Guess what? It doesn't kill you.
No.
It just makes you hurt bad.
Ah.
He ended up having to shoot 2 of them in the head.
Ugh.
And one guy, he stuck a pin in his ear and then kicked it. That guy lived. That guy
Jeepers
lived.
creepers.
His son died. It was one of the parents that came to find his kids that were working at the hi-fi store.
Good Lord.
It ended up being 5.
Hi-fi is a stereo for those of you
yeah,
who are under
yeah.
60.
Yeah. It was so incredibly horrible, and it ended up being a huge kind of watershed moment for Utah because the 5 guys that perpetrated, they only had 3 of them they were able to charge, and 2 of them were executed.
Oh, wow.
But they were all minorities, and the jury that came on was all white, and it was a huge
and
thing.
it's Utah white, which
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
as white as you can
So
get.
it was a big deal, but they did the most unspeakable things.
Yeah, minorities
The-
not. That's disgusting.
The 17-year-old girl that was working there, they raped and murdered, shot her in the head. One guy got shot in the head and lived. One of the kids lived for a while. And it was just, but the pin in the ear was the most disturbing thing I've ever read.
Yeah, that's like The Dark Knight
It was
with the Joker.
yeah,
when he does
it
the
was
disappearing pen trick.
It was so net, but the guy lived. That was the messed up thing. Is the guy
Oh,
lived.
he
through
didn't
that.
hear out of that ear. And that thing, he must have had brain damage.
Yeah,
oh my
well,
God.
it came out through like his
Oh,
cheek.
look,
Yeah.
God, what
Yeah.
a...
This is why I didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So anyway, Hi-Fi Murders. Look it up. Read it.
Yikes.
There's a really nice long Wikipedia article about it. It's really nasty.
Graphic. Ugh. Well,
right.
I asked for it, so
You did.
I wanted to hear it. It's my fault. Blame me.
All right. Well, it's a nice segue into Spooktober.
Yes, murder into murder. But first will be... they're coming for you, Barbara.
Yeah. So excited about this.
Yes. Well, listen up next week. Welcome to the Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today it's another...
For the Stepdads. Oh, sorry. Is that not what we were going to say? We're usually so in sync.
Welcome to the Gen X Show. I'm Jim.
Gen X show.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Super Friends, already in progress.